The Bulgars of the late 7th century were blessed with an exceptional ruler. When a capable man was needed to lead the great migration of the Danubian Bulgars, Asparuh was there. He was also there to keep his people safe from the Khazars and Avars. When the Roman army came in force to slaughter his people, he instead led the slaughter of the Roman army. In short, everything that this hard-pressed people needed from their Khan, they received, and more. At the turn of the century, Asparuh passed from this realm. We are unsure of the details, but it is clear that Asparuh's son, Tervel, succeeded his father. If Tervel had learned successfully from his father as a boy, then the man had the capability of becoming a great ruler for his people. We are first introduced to Tervel through Roman scribes as a feature in Roman intrigue. We are told about the absconding of the Roman Emperor Justinian II and his eventual arrival to Tervel's court. Justinian II had fallen out of favor with the Romans, and the strategos of Hellas, Leontius, had replaced him as emperor. Leontius had also ordered Justinian's nose to be cut off. The Greek Romans of this era had a peculiar tradition of mutilating a deposed emperor's face, as to visibly signify their loss of power and prevent future attempts at the crown. Despite his disfigurement, Justinian II had spent 7 years in exile growing his support, before finally landing in Bulgaria by chance. When the deposed emperor's ship was caught in a storm somewhere between the Dniester and Dnieper, he decided to diplomatically approach the Bulgars. Khan Tervel correctly saw a valuable pawn in Justinian and granted him the support of 12,000 Bulgar horsemen and 3,000 federates in eastern Thrace. The Bulgar Slav forces now turned southwards, and with Justinian accompanying, they rode south until they reached the Theodosian walls of Constantinople. Justinian appealed to the citizenry and soldiers to open the gates. Understandably, with 15,000 Bulgars and Slavs right outside the city, the people of Constantinople refused. After being denied for 3 days, Justinian risked passage through an unused aqueduct. Once inside the city, he roused his supporters and performed a successful coup. On the 21st of August, Justinian II regained his throne. Despite being mutilated and having the moniker Justinian the Slit-Nosed, Justinian wrested control of the throne from Leontius and performed his own symbolic act. He placed his foot on Leontius' neck in an act of domination before having him beheaded in the Hippodrome. We are told that Justinian was exceptionally satisfied with the recent events, honoring his agreement with Khan Tervel. Justinian adorned the Bulgarian Khan with a chlamys, the official garb of an Eastern Roman emperor. Additionally, we are told that Tervel was granted the title and crown of a Caesar, further elevating the status of Bulgar Khans to equal that of Roman emperors. Lastly, and most importantly, the lands promised around the Balkan Mountains were indeed peacefully handed over to the Bulgars. 3 years of peace ensued between Bulgar Slavs and Roman Greeks. It seems those 3 years were enough for Justinian to consolidate power and grow in confidence. It is unclear what directly prompted this, but Justinian once again pointed the imperial army toward Bulgaria. More than likely, the Roman emperor simply felt he had enough power and resources to finally destroy the Bulgars. This, combined with a general Roman revulsion for all of the losses suffered to the Bulgars and Slavs, meant it was time to act. At the very least, Justinian II could retake the newly acquired Bulgarian territories. 3 years prior, Justinian and Tervel schemed as allies. In 708, however, Justinian mustered ships and men for another invasion of Bulgaria. From Theophanes the Confessor, In this year, Justinian broke the peace between the Romans and the Bulgars, and after ferrying the cavalry Thamata across to Thrace and fitting out a fleet, set out against Tervel and his Bulgars. The emperor made the famous trek north, his army marching on the stone steps of the Via Pontica. The coastal fort of Anchialus was chosen as the rallying point of the Roman army before further advancement. While Theophanes only mentions the thematic cavalry, we can assume that Justinian had some infantry units with him, most likely from the imperial retinue, the local garrisons, and the local theme. When the Roman army and ships arrived, the cavalry was garrisoned on the outskirts of Anchialus, while the ships and other followers docked around and next to the city. The Romans felt especially safe in this area. Not only were they in proper Roman territory, surrounded by Roman forts, but the nearby coasts were also littered with ships and soldiers. The army outside of Anchialus would continue growing until enough men were present to overwhelm the Bulgars. In the meantime, Justinian II ordered the cavalry forage the surrounding countryside for food and provisions. The Roman emperor, however, had made a miscalculation. His army was rallying within approximately 30 miles or about 50 kilometers from the border of Bulgaria. Normally, this would not be as big of an issue, however, the Bulgarian army was highly mobile. Not only did the Bulgars move entirely at the speed of a horse, but they had Slavic federates in the vicinity who were extremely familiar with the rough terrain. As soon as Justinian brought such a massive force into the vicinity, the best practice as a general would have been to create a traditional Roman fortified encampment, perhaps with a small earthen rampart and ditch around the border of the encampment to deter and defend against potential attacks. Instead, we are told the Roman emperor took no such precautions. The Bulgar and Slavic scouts spying on the Roman army from the heights near their border saw the entire ordeal and reported back to their Khan, who had moved his forces to the vicinity. Now, referring back to the words of our friend Theophanes the Confessor, the Bulgarians saw from the mountains the stupid provisions of the Romans and unexpectedly attacked like wild beasts. The Roman army, taken completely by surprise, mounted some resistance. However, with the cavalry spread apart in individual units, they were easily overwhelmed by the concentrated charge. Disaster compounded when the routing units rushed toward their camp, spreading panic and preventing organization. The remaining units were easily overwhelmed. Theophanes again tells us, they destroyed the Roman herd, taking many prisoners, horses, and weapons other than those killed. Justinian II had just enough time to escape into the safety of Anchialus with some of his followers. For the second time now, an unexpected charge by the Bulgar cavalry had taken the Roman forces completely by surprise, and another Roman army had been destroyed by the Bulgars. The Bulgars stalked Justinian outside of Anchialus for 3 days until he sailed away under the cover of night. The Bulgarian victory in 708 had long-lasting consequences. The newly acquired territories by Tervel could now be slowly incorporated into Bulgaria without further Roman interference, at least in the near term. Additionally, and equally as important, the status quo between Bulgars and Romans was once again reinforced with Bulgaria on top. The Roman tribute payment could resume and the Bulgars could continue their political ascent. After almost 3 decades of fighting, the Eastern Romans still had no real answer to the growing Bulgarian state on the Danube.